So welcome and good morning, everybody, to the Los Angeles School of Homeopathy. I know I just showed you that short video in our building, and I am actually sitting in that building. And I'm very sad that you're not sitting here with me, but this is how the world has been in the last year because of the pandemic. So here we are. Welcome to the LA School of Homeopathy. When you enter into partnership with your key people, you will quickly discover that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. This is one of my favorite quotes because to me that kind of sums up homeopathy once you truly understand it. Ordre pair is Latin, and does anybody here speak Latin, or actually Spanish is very close to Latin? Does anyone have an idea of what that means? I'm just going to grab a book behind me. You can say it out loud or you can chat it to me if you know. So Hahnemann, who was the founder of
Hello.
Oh, yes, you know?
Well, I was just trying to maybe take a guess. I speak Spanish, but saber could be like knowledge or to know or like closer to saber, like to know. And aude, I have a feeling it has like, to be able to like have the audacity to know or to investigate or to get to know. I could be wrong.
No, you are so right. I love that. Thank you for piping up and saying that. You are correct. It means dare to know. So Hahnemann that wrote this book called The Organon of Medicine, and it's actually a book that's on your first year book list. And it is a book, it seems quite thick, but we cover this book and discuss every single topic in this book over the next 3 years while you are in school. And what Hahnemann put in the front of his book was ordre pair. So he was daring the reader for the knowledge. I dare you to know this information. He was quite an interesting man. We won't get too much into his history just now, but obviously in school you get to know all about Hahnemann, who is the founder of homeopathy. So our mission statement at the school is to train and educate professional homeopaths so that they will be able to profoundly cure disease and raise the health of individuals and the general population. We don't move from our mission statement. All we do is teach homeopathy. We don't dilute into anything else. We don't teach you herbs. We don't teach you about nutrition. We are only going to teach you about homeopathy and how that works. So what I would love to do now is ask you, what are your reasons for studying homeopathy? So if I can kind of move around the room here, Erica, and it's up to you if you want to be on camera or not. Erica,
Yes, I can.
Yeah, just tell us in
Show
like
myself.
a minute or so, a couple of sentences, what your interest in homeopathy is.
Well, I think it all started when I was a little kid. I was sick all the time and I used to live in a different country. And my mom found a doctor from Germany that used homeopathy. So I was exposed to treatment as a little patient. And as I grew older, I became more curious, and I have used some remedies with my family. And the kids love it, so it's been quite effective for them. And having a scientific background, it kind of instigated for me to know a little bit more. So I study other natural modalities as well, but I'm definitely interested in what can homeopathy do for us in a greater extent.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I'm going to ask Pixel 2 XL. You can just unmute. All right, maybe we'll come back to in a second. You know, some of your names are not coming up, so I'm going to go to Evie. Evie, can you tell us why you are thinking about studying homeopathy?
Sorry, my voice. I'm sorry. I
Oh,
believe the I'm really amazed because I grew up with an allopathic background in an allopathic world. So when I first heard of homeopathy, I thought this was nonsense. How can that be? But then as I began to know more through hearing other people speak and through the Truth About Cancer, one of their series, I was amazed at how effective yet no side effects homeopathy is. And then when I use it for myself, I use box remedy, recipe remedy. I was totally amazed. I realized this is something I really want to get into.
okay, great. Thank you. And I forgot you kind of lost your voice.
Yeah.
Natasha, you want to tell us in a few sentences?
Yes, good morning. I I guess I got into homeopathy after my child had some chronic issues, and I've met a woman who is a homeopath, and I've been practicing it for the last, I would say, 15 years or so under her guidance. And at this point, I wanted to learn more so I can be less reliant on her and, you know, be able to treat myself, my children. And I don't think she practices classic homeopathy per se, but I want to have the firmer foundation so I am more confident myself in treating my family and friends, and I feel there is a great need for that. So
Okay,
that's it for me.
great. Thank you. Thank you. Tracy.
Tracy or Stacy?
Oh, we can do either one.
Oh, I didn't know if there was a Tracy.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
Tracy right here. Hi there.
Yeah.
So one thing I love about homeopathy is that it can be used for all ages, all conditions, that it's non-toxic, you know, it doesn't interact with things, and it can really help get to the root cause of what's going on. And really it's all about energy, right? So we're energetic beings, and it's an energetic medicine, and I feel like it can help in ways that lots of other modalities can't. And I'm excited to be able to I want to practice as a homeopath. So I'm excited to bring this option of healthcare to our community, because the closest homeopath is the next 2 counties over. So quite a ways from where I live. So it would be, I think, a great benefit to the community and more to my family, and learn more. I use it with my kids and my family, but I'd love to have a more solid foundation and knowledge to actually start practice with other people.
Great. And where do you live?
I live in Sonora, so north of Yosemite.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Why don't we go up to Stacy now?
Hi. So for me, well, my first introduction to homeopathy was many years ago. I was in Portugal, and the first day that I was there, I must have picked up something on the plane because I became so ill, like with the 24-hour flu. And they took me to a small clinic, gave me a remedy, and I was better the next day. I didn't think too much about it then, you know, until years later, when I was home in the US, I had came down with something that no doctors could figure out what was going on. It was one of those, you know, there's no cause, there's no cure. And it was probably the worst year of my life because it was affecting me physically and emotionally. And I was seeing highly trained doctors, and nobody could figure things out except put me on major drugs. And at some point, I just turned away from everything and said, I'm going to do this on my own. And thankfully, I had kind of more of an holistic way of wanting to, you know, heal things. So I went on my own, which was really tiring because I went down the rabbit hole of many healing modalities. But at the very end, I came upon homeopathy, and that's what really did it. And I'm in San Diego, so I see Gabrielle Traub, that's my homeopath. And ever since I took my first remedy, I've been hooked. And so I love it. It's my first, that's what I go to. So.
Great. Well, and I can't say, you know, just Gabrielle is such an amazing person and a teacher. She's been teaching for us, I would say, for the past 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
So she's really wonderful. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see, Kristen.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So my main focus and reason for wanting to study this is I used to be in the medical field, and I do feel that the medical field has changed tremendously. It's become more of a business, and I used to be someone who was all about seeing a doctor every time I didn't feel well, and I've noticed that the holistic homeopathic way is actually what makes me feel a lot better. And I want to be able to pass that on to my children and future generations, especially with this past year and everything going on. It's really instilled a lot of fear and dependency on the medical field, and I don't agree with that at all. And I think fear is just not the way to live, and people need to kind of go back to their roots and know that Mother Earth heals all. Not just physically, but mentally. And like Tracy said, it is an energy. So I highly agree with that. I just want to be able to pass that on to future generations and take away the fear and let them know that there are options, and it comes from our great Mother Earth.
Yeah, great. I love that. Thank you. Why don't we go to, I'm not sure of your name, but I'm guessing it's Shem. Is that
Yeah,
right?
Shen, S-H-E-N, Shen, yeah. My full name, Shenbagam, it's a flower name.
Thank you. Welcome. And you're in India, is that right?
No, right now I'm in America, but my mother is in India.
Oh, right. It's your mother. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I just requested for a recorded session for her, and she said she's unable to attend from there. So that's what I'm attending on her behalf, and also for my future. Maybe I'll join, and that's why I just joined the session.
Okay.
Actually, my idea about the homeopathy is my mother was practicing ever since I was very small, and because it doesn't have any side effects. But that time, it wasn't working out nicely for me because I couldn't see any results, and I've been going through the polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I'm struggling getting pregnancy and other things. So, but in later, off late in my life, especially when I have a strong understanding about the gospel and Jesus Christ, and then my internal spiritual level has changed. And then I worked on with now I'm going through the gallstones. So for gallstones and everything, I'm just taking this medicine only. And every other issue, even the polycystic ovarian syndrome and everything, I'm taking homeopathy, but it's really getting a cure. So what I believe from this, because it doesn't have any side effects, and moreover, when I pray, and then there is I have a set of basic medicines at home. So, and also it was given by intuition, God showing the medicines, and then I go through online, I check out whether it's really matching me, and it's really working. That means it's miraculously, the doctors are seeing the results in me. They were asking what I'm doing, because they were prescribing a surgery all the time, but I'm escaping from that. It's a natural healing happening through this medicine only. So
Thank you.
yeah.
I love that story. That is just amazing. And I do want to share with everyone that, in India, there are medical homeopathic schools. There are many of them. And also there are more homeopaths in India than there are anywhere else in the world. The government supports homeopathy. Actually, the government during the pandemic, the government actually told everyone, go and get this remedy. So homeopathy is kind of like how over here there is a 7-Eleven on every corner. I always joke, in India, there's a homeopath on every corner. So welcome and thanks for being here. Let's go to Karen. Karen, you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what your interest in studying homeopathy is? And if you can't unmute, you can just
Hi.
chat at me. Oh, there you
Sorry.
are.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to do it. Sorry. Yeah, so I've always been interested in natural medicine. My grandfather, where I'm from, was considered a witch doctor, and over the years, because I'm a first generation American, we've kind of like relied a lot on Western medicine, but I've always been interested in how my grandpa looks at things and stuff like that. And so I want to follow in his footsteps and learn some natural alternative medicine. Right now I'm working with essential oils, but I wanted to learn an entire discipline like homeopathy. And so yeah, that's basically why I'm here today.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then I'm not sure of your name, but you're called Financial Peace in your little Hollywood square.
Hi there. I'm actually using my boyfriend's Zoom. So,
What's your name?
I'm Nicolette.
Nicolette. Nice to meet you, Nicolette.
Hi. Thank you. Well, actually, I've had a handful of diagnosed problems with me in the past like 10 years, and none of them felt very right. You know, internal reproductive issues, also PCOS, but had to go to like a handful of different doctors anyway, and none of it has really felt right. None of it has everything on my personal level. Like, it's just I want to heal internally, and I believe that once I heal internally and naturally, or with more natural product and knowledge, that things will start to align a little bit better, you know. And I just have a desire to, once I know within myself how to heal myself, I'd be able to, you know, guide other people to be able to heal themselves. So in that sense,
Okay.
that's what I've been, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And then Pixel 2XL, can you unmute and tell us who you are? No? Okay. Then let's go to Jess. Jess, you want to just tell us your interest in studying homeopathy?
Sure. It's a amalgam of what pretty much everybody else said. You know, it's when it works, you get excited about it. And what's interesting is I feel like people in my family who really rely on Western medicine, and people that I speak to and maybe even purchase a homeopathic book for, this kind of thing. Everybody is so hesitant about it. Maybe not in the town I live in, it's Santa Monica.
Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about the history about Louis and I. Louis Klein and I actually started the school together years ago when there was sort of a homeopathic school in LA, and then it kind of disintegrated into something else. And so then one day I said to Louis Klein, so those of you wouldn't know who Louis Klein is unless you're in our industry. So what Bruce Springsteen is to rock and roll, Lou Klein is to homeopathy. And I said, and then people usually say, oh, okay, I get that now. And then we had decided, you know, I wanted to make sure that homeopathy doesn't go away. So then Lou and I decided to put together the school, and I have been running, and I have been the director of the school ever since. Lou does come and teach for us every now and again, but Lou also doesn't live close by. He's up in Vancouver, Canada, and he's written many books, and he is a world-renowned homeopath. I think at the time, well, what is Lou now? Lou might be close to 40 years of practicing homeopathy, and I'm about 25 years in myself as well. And we are just both very, very passionate about sharing this knowledge with people, giving them this really good foundational education, so then they can go out and help others. Really, that is truly has always been our mission statement and our goal for people that do want to come and study homeopathy. So let's talk a little bit about medicine for the 21st century. Obviously, this year has been so different. It's been a very, very different for all of us. This is a worldwide issue. And I have had my patients on a couple of homeopathic remedies. And I was bracing myself, just like, you know, the rest of the world, we're going to start getting phone calls. All these, you know, people are going to come down with COVID, I thought. Not one, and I'm really surprised. I'm still waiting for that phone to ring today. I have not had one personal COVID case from my practice, from the patients that I have been treating, which is very, very amazing to me. Also, the homeopathic community worldwide has been having conferences that I have also been part of to help figure out what homeopathic remedies would be really good if someone does get COVID. So I would say there's a good 20 to 25 remedies that have been found to really help. Not everybody has the same symptoms. So a lot of us have been in part of that movement to help. And then over this past year, I've also written a couple of articles. I also write a newsletter every now and again. I don't write too many newsletters, but this past year is the year that I've written about 3 or 4, and I put information out there because I felt like everyone needed to have this information. It was free information. You know, here are my suggestions. Here's what you can do. And now my recent newsletter was about, you know, the COVID vaccine. And if you are having any side effects, here's some remedies that you can also take towards that. I don't have any opinion about the vaccine, but I just want to make sure that I can give this information out there. And I think most homeopaths that I do know have been doing that, getting that information out there. So medicine for the 21st century. A lot of people, like a lot of your stories today, you go to a doctor, you get prescribed something, it doesn't really work, it doesn't help the issue, there can be a side effect. Now, please know, I am not against Western medicine. I'm always trying to bridge that gap. I don't use diagnostic tools, but they have some very good diagnostic tools, especially when they get it right. I cannot see inside your body, but they do have diagnostic tools that can. And that does help us. It does help homeopaths to find out, you know, what might be going on inside someone's body. So we, you know, as homeopaths, we do not diagnose. Yes, you can get a copy of my newsletter. Someone just asked me that. I'll be happy to, for those of you that are on here, to send you my newsletters that I've written over the past year. So what do people do? They get stuck. They don't like the side effects. Maybe their child that you've been told by your teachers that you need to put your kid on Ritalin or Adderall, and you don't really want to do that to your child. Or maybe your child has had like the 5th set of antibiotics and that ear infection is not moving. So sometimes homeopathy is the last house on the block, so to speak, the last straw. We see a lot of patients like that. But my favorite patients are, I am the first line of defense. And I do have a lot of families that are from Europe, from India, from Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, because over there, homeopathy is a lot more well known, and homeopathy is the first line of defense. So they go to their homeopaths first. So homeopathy is truly a medicine for the 21st century. Not only the way that remedies are made, but it also doesn't take a lot of material to make our remedies. So they're actually also very green remedies. So some facts about medicine and homeopathy. Someone had already brought this up when they spoke about why they want to study homeopathy. There are no side effects in homeopathy. I have always found homeopathy to be an expressive medicine, not a suppressive medicine. So if someone has got, they were running and they injured their knee, and now their knee is swollen. What Western medicine will go to first is an anti-inflammatory. It is anti-inflammatory. With homeopathy, we're going to give a remedy that's going to help express, not suppress. So it doesn't put a band-aid on that knee, because what will happen is if someone takes an anti-inflammatory, then you think, oh, my pain has gone away, I feel so much better, I can go back out there and hit the pavements again. And meanwhile, the injury is still there. The reason why it's swollen is kind of like your body's own immune system and immune response putting its own band-aid there, saying that there is an injury here. So sometimes people can injure themselves more. It is very safe for children to use, even for infants. I have never had a child, I also see a lot of children in my practice because I am a practicing homeopath too. Never had a child that did not like to take a homeopathic remedy. It's very easy for people to take. So this was a cartoon that came out many years ago, but it is one of my favorites. I do love this. Drug-free America. So you can see between ages 0 to 4 is kind of the amoxicillin. Those are like the earache remedies, that antibiotic. And then you've got the 4 to 12-year-olds. That's kind of when the Ritalin kicks in. And then you've got the 12 to 18-year-olds. Those are the appetite suppressants. And then you have the 18 to 24, the no-dos, the college students that are trying to stay awake so they can study. And then you've got the 24-year-olds to the 38-year-olds. That's kind of like the Prozac years, so to speak. And then you've got the 38 to 65, the Zantac. The Prozac is it's an antidepressant. Zantac is an anti-anxiety. And then 65 plus is everything else. I do really love this cartoon for the drug-free America. I've actually do have a lot of patients, all varying in ages. And one of my patients, she's English, she used to live here, but she actually moved back to the UK. And I told her she should find a homeopath in the UK, but she refuses. So we still see each other over video conference, which is fine. And the doctors cannot believe, because if she's gone for a checkup, that she is not taking any medication. They can't believe it. They're like, no way, because she's like 74, 75. They're really, really surprised that someone in her age range is not on any medication. So our curriculum outline. So our first year is really giving you a lot of history, philosophy, the fundamentals of homeopathy. I call them the building blocks. This is the place where we're going to help you build a house in 3 years. So in your first year, we're just laying down the foundation for that education so you can build on top of that. We teach you about basics of health and disease, obviously talking about history, how to take a homeopathic case, comparing conventional medicine and alternative medicine, first aid homeopathic remedies, acute homeopathic remedies, introduction to chronic treatment, observing clinical cases. We're going to talk about the vital force. This might be a word that you are not familiar with, and about health. And then of course, repertory language. So in our school, how we find a homeopathic remedy, or how any homeopath would, is to look up symptoms in their repertory. So we're going to teach you actually how to use a repertory. We're going to teach you repertory language. So the first year kind of introduces you to all of those things. Then the second year is really trying to help deepen your understanding of what you learned in first year, and also building on top of that. So we continue with the deeper studies of philosophy, and then also we switch into remedies, families and their kingdoms, meaning in second and third year we only teach through the families. And what I mean by that is, and I'll go into a little bit later, of how we use the plant, mineral and animal remedies. And then we also study, say, on the periodic table, different rows and columns, and that really gives us a better understanding of all the minerals, including the plants and the animals as well. And then we really get into more about chronic disease and treating constitutionally. case taking and analysis. Introduction to evaluations and follow-ups is in second year. Clinic case observation, we have live patients that do come into our classroom, including in first year. So you get to see the homeopath, the teacher, take a case. We usually have 1 or 2 in first year, live patients. Potency, which is about posology. And then the doctrine of signatures, which is talking about where those homeopathic remedies come from. And I'll talk a little bit about that too. And then, of course, provings, an introduction to provings. Also in your second year is when we start clinic. We do run a low-income clinic, and students do take patients' cases in second and in third year. And then in your third year, we are really trying to help strengthen your clinic abilities. It's about that transitioning from student homeopath into homeopath. So there are a lot of more case studies, remedy groupings and original sources, advanced clinical work, case management, introduction to practice management, talking about traditional and new homeopathic approaches, kind of that evolution of the spiritual healing within. And then, of course, talking about the 3 kingdoms. Also in third year, there is a mentorship program that students do as well. Now, it's not in this curriculum outline that I sent to you because this year we are just rolling out, which will start in September, a 4th optional year. We have had over the years many of our students saying, oh, we don't want to leave, we want to stay, we still feel that we need more education. And I can't blame them for that either. Homeopathy is a lifetime study. I would agree with that statement. Once you finish school, if you're really going to go practice, you need to be going to as many seminars as you can. I still do, and I've kept in my computer, in my filing database, that every single year since 1995, when I graduated, I have attended at least 2 seminars per year. It really kind of just helps keep you on your game, keeps you on track, and then you learn about new and innovative things as well. Instead of just learning what we taught you and just staying with that, you'll be very static. And homeopathy is not static. So that's why that's not in here, but we will be rolling out that optional 4th year for students that wish to stay a little longer, get a little bit more education, and there's more of a hand holding as well. So when they're transitioning into their own practices. So our classes are...
Sorry.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
I do have a question. I saw the outline for the curriculum. There are some additional classes, like I saw the anatomy and physiology. At what point would that be taken in the 3 years?
Okay, so we are actually just going to be, over this summer, actually, one of our teachers that's also a medical doctor is going to be teaching that class. If you don't have, and the reason why we don't make it mandatory in school is because some of our students already have physiology, anatomy, and pathology. Some of our students are nurses, massage therapists, acupuncturists, medical doctors, so they already have a medical background. And for those of you that don't, we suggest within your 3 years, you know, that you do take these courses. Now, you can take a course at any local college. They always offer anatomy, physiology 101 and pathology 101. And those are the 2 that we definitely suggest. You don't need it going into school to start school, but we definitely suggest, you know, it's a really good idea to know where the spleen is and what it does and what the functions are. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I basically just talked about first year, second year, and third year. So in second year, you start your internship and the mentoring program. And then in third year, you're still carrying on with your internship and your mentoring program. And in third year, you are assigned a mentor as well.
I had a question.
Yes.
Tracy here. So I've had anatomy and physiology, and then pathology is the other one that's recommended. Do you have a course that you guys offer specifically for pathology, like in addition to the general program, or do you have somewhere you recommend being able to access that?
So this summer we're going to be, I think this summer we're rolling out physiology and anatomy. We don't have the pathology course. We used to, and they were on CDs, but over the years, these CDs have been so worn out, and who does CDs anymore, right? Yeah. So we're going to be offering a class over the summer, and anyone can join into that class, but that class will also be recorded, so you can go at your own pace as well.
Okay, and that was my other question for everything. Like, I'm in Sonora with a family. So can everything be done online? But what about the clinical aspect?
That is a great question.
If you're a distance learner.
Yeah. So this year, obviously, well, the past year as well, it was very easy for us to roll 100% online because we have always been a hybrid program. We have been a school that has live classes, meaning students have gotten their butts into a seat in our classroom, which is actually the room next door. The office that we're in now is my office, but you can see if I turn over this way, it's one of the school libraries. And if I turn it that way, there's the other school library right behind my shoulders here. But because of COVID, we went 100% online, and it was very easy for us to do that because we were already using Zoom anyway. Now everyone's an expert at Zoom, which is so great. So it doesn't matter where you live. We have a lot of students that don't live close to LA or they live out of state. We also have some students that don't live in this country that are taking our courses as well. One of our students that did live here moved back to Germany. She was German, and now she's still finishing up. She's a third-year student and she's about to graduate. With our clinic, again, we rolled 100% online. We don't have our clinic patients come in anymore, and nor do our students, and it's just on a Zoom meeting. So that has also been a hybrid program as well. So going forward, we would still keep that hybrid. Now, going forward, the school is making this decision that we are not going to go back live in person this year either. The reason being is the class next door to us, it's a beautiful room. It's a lovely area, but it is not a huge space. And students have to sit very close to each other. We could not do 3 feet apart, 6 feet apart. We'd only have a space for like 5 or 6 students in our classroom. Mm-hmm. Normally, back in the old days, we could have 15 students in our classes live. So because of that, because we want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable sitting next to each other, so we've decided this year we're going to stay online. And actually our second year class that's going into third year, because a lot of them don't live close by, requested, hey, can we stay online? It's so much easier for us. And we're like, sure, that's great for us too. So yes, we are still going to be online for the next year. And then after that, we'll evaluate and see how we are this time next year, if that makes sense.
Yes, well, online is what I would need, so that's great.
Yes, yes. And like I said, we've always had that hybrid. So our front doors are global front doors to the school.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let me just talk about the structure of the school. So it is a 3-year part-time program. So it is very doable for someone if they work full-time, you have family, your life is busy. We start in September and we go through June. Class is 1 weekend per month. I'm going to repeat that because sometimes people do not hear me when I say that. Class is only 1 weekend per month. So then people are like, oh, wow, that's actually really doable for me. So that 1 weekend when you have to, be online, find a little place in your house where you're not going to be disturbed too much. And so it's just 1 weekend per month. Now there is homework in between, and I'll talk about that as well. Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 6. And I promise you, we are going to fill up your brains as much as we can on that Saturday and that Sunday. And I always like to say that by Sunday afternoon, one eyeball is usually going this way and the other eyeball is going. There is a lot of information that comes at you. And I can already hear, just from speaking to and hearing your background, some of you know a little bit about homeopathy and some of you will be very new to homeopathy. This is why we always start everybody at ground level, at that foundational level. And there is a lot of information that might be new to a lot of people. And then also we know that there are a lot of moments where you think, I don't understand this, I'm not sure if I'm going to get this. And I say to students, just sit with it. Just be with it, let it absorb in. At some point, it will come through organically, through osmosis. That information will kind of be downloaded. So there are a lot of deer in the headlights in first year, and there are some aha moments that will happen. But there are definitely more aha moments that happen in second year. And in third year, there are a lot more aha moments. It's sort of like having that light bulb above your head and it starts to flicker on and off. You know, that does not happen a lot in first year, just so you know. The information comes at you. It's very different from perhaps what you've studied before or what you've learned. So it's very, very different. So I always like to make sure that I always share that with everybody, that first year, sometimes, you know, one eyeball this way, one eyeball that way. I think someone had their hand up. Is that you, Tracy, Stacy? Go ahead with your question, just unmute.
Yes, hi, that was me. I guess the question I have is, because it's one weekend per month, if something happens that weekend and you're not able to make it to be online, would you be able to access the information or the recording later? And I guess how many times can you do that? Is there a limit for that as well?
Okay, great question. So yes, if you can't join us live, sitting from your living room in your PJs, because life does happen, then we do record all of our sessions and you can request the recordings. After you have watched the recordings, a Saturday and Sunday, and they're about 6.5, 7 hours long. We don't record our lunch breaks and our breaks. Then you have to write a 1-page paper for each day that you have missed, because we want to make sure that you are keeping up and you're watching it, because you'll only be cheating yourself out of the education if you didn't. So yes, you can absolutely watch the recordings. Some people, they can't do Saturdays, and some of our students can't do Sundays. So they watch the recordings of that class and then join the other day. But our school is a live school. We are not meant to be, we don't always, sorry, let me say this clearly. We are not a long distance learning program, let's put it that way, where some schools are and they'll just send you a bunch of recordings and say you've got to read these books. So I do want to make that clear that we are in person when we can be. We're in person, online, live, and of course, if you can't make it to some sessions, we totally do understand. Okay. So I know some of you had some other questions, but I will be covering that a little later on. So we really represent an innovative approach to teaching and practicing homeopathy in combination with the traditional essences of homeopathy. It is the culmination and aspirations of many experienced homeopaths who have the best of homeopathic training to offer. Our 3-year part-time course with mentorship and internship program leading to a diploma as a professional homeopath with common standards of excellence and testing. So after your 3rd year, once you have finished all the school requirements and you've passed your exams, then you will actually receive a diploma in homeopathy. In the state of California, you can practice with that diploma. You don't need anything else. The SB 577 bill that I did send to all of you is about how we can practice in the state of California under that bill. If you are in a different state, it varies from state to state. But I can only speak of California because that's where the school is. So some of our foundational knowledge. So students are exposed to various methods of the application of homeopathy. The evolving nature of the science and art of homeopathy is definitely encouraged, and a thorough foundational of the knowledge of homeopathy is imparted to ensure that all aspects of the homeopathic sciences will be mastered. While the nature of pathology and conventional medicine is covered, instructions will not go into allopathic interests. The word allopathic actually means Western medicine. Samuel Hahnemann, who is we call him the grandfather of homeopathy, also coined that term allopathic. So just a little bit on history. So homeopathic, the word, if you break it down, homeo means similar and pathos means suffering. So homeopathy treats by similar sufferings, which goes into like cures like. Whereas allopathic, allio means opposite suffering. So they'll give you something that has nothing to do with what is going on with you. It is a completely opposite type of medicine. So actually today, most Western doctors do understand the word allopathic. And even Hahnemann, who came up with taking things sublingually, which means that remedies are usually taken underneath the tongue, today that is still used. So a lot of what Hahnemann came up with in his day, which was over 200 years ago now, some of those things are still imparted, especially 100% with homeopathy, and even going into Western medicine, where if you are having a heart attack, you call 911 and the paramedics show up, they're going to give you nitroglycerin, and how they're going to give it to you is underneath the tongue. They're not going to give you an injection. It's not going to go into the bloodstream. They're not going to inject your heart, but you take it sublingually. That's what it's called when you take something under the tongue. Now you think if you're having a heart attack that perhaps you might think, should it go into the bloodstream? Is it a pill that you swallow that goes into the stomach that needs to be broken down? Does it need to be an injection straight into the heart? No, and the reason is that when you take something sublingually, it acts instantly. It absorbs into your system instantly. It doesn't have to go down your digestive tract. It doesn't have to be broken down by the acids and the bile in your stomach. It's not going to be an injection into your bloodstream that then has to travel through your bloodstream. So when you take something sublingually, it instantly acts in the body. Self-evolution. Now, this is usually the only time I ever share about self-evolution. Amazing things usually happen for students through their path of education in homeopathy. So students are respected as independent adults. Teaching methods and materials are designed to provide a framework for the evolution of each individual's intellect, perceptive, spiritual, and personal skills. Students often tell us that through the education of homeopathy, it has profoundly changed their lives. Now, I don't mean about a homeopathic remedy. I'm just talking about when you're on this path, learning and studying homeopathy, that evolution, that path where you're during the 3 years in your school, things are going to happen. Things are going to open up for you. They're going to happen for you. And it is so different for every student. But I would say 99% of the students end up coming back to me and saying, wow, things have changed in my life. I've decided to, do this full time now, when they had no intentions that they wanted to do that. And just that evolution of learning and studying homeopathy has been such a profound impact on themselves. So this is not in any of our curriculum. It is not in any book. We won't really talk about this again, but I always like to talk about it at an open house because it really does have an effect on students. So one of my favorite Albert Einstein's quotes is, "Look deep into nature and then you will understand everything better." I'm such a geek, I actually have this on my refrigerator at home. Look deep into nature and then you will understand everything better. So one of our students that actually just moved back to Germany, she lives 1 block away from this street, which is called Hahnemann, and Hahnemann is the founder of homeopathy, and Strasse just means street. So I love that where she lives near Hamburg, there is Hahnemannstrasse. She really wanted to live on this street, but she couldn't find an apartment that was suited for her. She just sent this to me the other day. Why don't I pause here for a moment before we go into the next topic? Does anyone have any questions? And I know some of you are asking about financial stuff, and I will get to that towards the end.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Yes.
I probably will have to leave soon. At this point, can I listen to the recording? Will I?
Yes, yeah, we do have a recording of this, and I'll send you that recording. So
Okay.
it's a little bit cleaner than this one.
Okay.
And you'll see me without my gray hair because I wanted to go COVID gray.
And the other question, although it's nice being able to learn online, I would really love to come in person. So is there going to be any events that ever happen at the school? I live in San Diego, so for me, it's easy for me to come up. But
yes. Twice a year, we do have guest lecturers, and our guest lecturers are world-renowned homeopaths. They're like, Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen. They're of that kind of caliber.
Okay.
And usually when we have those guest lecturers teach for us, which is twice a year, we have spots in our curriculum. There's usually a big seminar because all three years will be in that seminar, as well as homeopaths want to come and listen as well. We will see this year if we can do that again, and we might be able to roll that out this year for the two guest lecturers. We just had Roger Morrison, who is a wonderful homeopath author. He's also a medical doctor, but he only practices homeopathy. He was our teacher about 2 weeks ago, and we were online at that point. We were still online. So yes, we hope to roll back out into a classroom space when, like I said, when everyone really feels comfortable with being in a smaller classroom space.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? You guys are asking really great questions. Well done. So let's just talk briefly.
Okay, sorry, I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. For the weekend classes, are they always the same weekend a month, like the second weekend, the third weekend?
No, and the reason being is that when we sit down and do our schedule, we try never ever to schedule over Mother's Day, over any major holidays, over any religious holidays. We try our best to look at all of those things. So that's why September class, though, is usually the last weekend of the month, only because we have a lot of late signups. And then we start to bring it towards the beginning of the month because you've got Thanksgiving in November and December. There's big holidays towards the end of the month. So they're not always it's not always the same.
I was just thinking like how to arrange daycare and how that would be easier. My husband works weekends, so I'm like,
oh, okay.
How can we make this work? So, all right, thanks.
Okay, and then after June, usually by July, is when the school will actually update the website for the new school year dates. We haven't done that yet because we're still in this school year and people will get confused with the dates. So once we finish our June courses, then in July we will post the dates. And even though we say these dates may change, I think in the 18 years I've been running the school, the dates have never changed. We just say that in case there's something that happens in the world, you know, but now, you know, we were just online. So,
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's delve into a little bit about the three kingdoms. So what does make our school a little different is that we do teach through the families, meaning the kingdoms. You know, I realize I kind of jumped in. I heard about your story. You guys never heard about mine. So I'll pause here and I'll tell you a little bit about my story. How I came to homeopathy was I am originally from England. I think you could still tell. I think I still have my accent, even though I've been here for 30 odd years. It's not, I'm just haven't got that accent down right yet. So in England, you know, if you were kind of ill, the doctor would literally say, well, just have some chicken soup and call me the next day. And it's interesting because there are things that are in the chicken bones that are really have a good nutrition for you if you do have a cold or something. They're not so quick to give out an antibiotic, let's put it that way. Not when I was growing up. I think today it's a little bit different. And then I moved to South Africa. I have some family there and I lived there for a couple of years and I really loved living there. I'm originally from London, so I grew up in a very, very big, busy city, just like Los Angeles, where I am now. And then I moved to the bush in South Africa, which was a completely different lifestyle for me. And while I was there, I was really intrigued what the local people do when they get sick. I wasn't ill, but I decided I wanted to go see someone. So I decided to go to see a sangoma, and someone already mentioned this. So a sangoma in English means witch doctor. So I went to see a sangoma. I mean, I lived in the bush, and where I lived, there was one stop sign in that town. I think there's 2 stop signs in that town today. And there was about 7 shops off of a dirt road. So when I went to go see the sangoma, I took a friend of mine with me that could help translate the language. I understood and spoke a couple of the different African languages, but not fluently. So a friend of mine came with me and we were driving off of a dirt road, 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 really in the heart of the bush in South Africa. And I went there and he lives in a little rondavel, which is like this round mud hut with grass as a roof. And he didn't speak English, so my friend could help translate for me. And I was just, you know, really intrigued, and it was such a wonderful experience for me. And then afterwards, I stood outside his house and I met his wife, or I think it was one of his wives. And her and I were kind of standing there overlooking this vista, this African vista, by something that's called a boma. And a boma is this round circular fence with a little entryway to go in and out, where you would have kind of like a barbecue in the middle. And that's where they would cook their food. And the fence was to keep the wild animals out. So while they're making their dinner, they don't become dinner. So here we are, and she spoke English, his wife. And we just kind of had this moment together and we weren't saying anything. And I was just looking out over this vista and I had this epiphany. There are things in Mother Nature that can help heal all ails. I don't know where that came from. It wasn't really a voice in my head. It was just like I had this epiphany. And where I lived in the South African bush was I lived in a place where a lot of fruits and vegetables were grown. The air was super clean. The water was super clean. For fun, I would go and swim in the rivers and waterfalls. You know, that was kind of what, although you'd have to be careful that there wasn't any hippos in the water. So it was a very different lifestyle from London. And I really loved that time in my life when I lived there, because it was just so wonderful. The air was so clean, and now I live in LA and I'm like, oh, the air, the people, the traffic. So I've always tried to live my life like I did back then, eating good, clean, healthy foods. Not much I can do about the air here. I always thought if two things could happen in LA, if there was a special vacuum that could suck up all the bad air and suck up all the bad people, LA would be a fantastic place to live in. So that's just a little bit about my background. And then when I came to the US, can you believe that I ended up working with a pharmaceutical company? How strange is that? But then this pharmaceutical company actually had a line of combination homeopathic remedies. And those are the remedies, how a lot of people come to homeopathy is through combo remedies. And the combo remedies are the things that you see in the pharmacy today that might just have headache on it or colic, and there's more than one remedy in there. It's a little bit of a shot in the dark because maybe it lists 5 or 6 remedies, but it's usually only one remedy that's going to work for you. So that's why they put this combo in there, trying to reach more of the general public. The remedies were working for people, and they would ask me, what is in this stuff? And I would try and read these labels, and they're all in Latin and they have these numbers and letters after them. I have no idea what it was. And then it came across my desk about an open house, just like the one you are sitting in, for a school that used to be in Santa Monica many, many years ago. So I decided to go to their open house. And the speaker they had that day was Trevor Cook. Trevor Cook at the time was the homeopathic pharmacist to the royal family. I was very impressed what he had to say, not because of what he did, but what he had to say about homeopathy. And I was just, wow, this medicine is amazing. So I decided to sign up for that school, not knowing what my future would hold for me. Especially when I signed up, someone else asked me this earlier. I just signed up to learn more information about it. I was not going to go on to 2nd or 3rd year. There was no way I was going to practice. That's not why I went to the school. I was just gleaning this new information that I just loved. I was immersed in it. And who knew 25 years later, I'd have a practice still, been running the school for the past 18 years. And then there are a lot of skeptics out there, and there might be a lot of people in your life that might not support you. But I promise you, I would not be still in practice if homeopathy did not work. Let's see, I have got a couple of guests on that I'm very excited for you to meet. So I think I am going to stop sharing that for a moment. And the 2 guests that I have on right now are some students from the school. These are real life students. I've asked them to join us today. Niraj, I'm going to ask you to go first. So so go ahead and turn on your camera, Niraj. Niraj is a 1st year student that joined us. Actually, I do remember Niraj a year ago because you signed up. You sent in your paperwork like in January and you were bugging me. Can I start earlier? I'm like, no, classes have already started. It's going to be too hard for you to catch up. And he was so excited to join the school. So if you want to switch your view to speaker view, you'll just hear or see Niraj, I should say. So Niraj, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your experience about being a student in 1st year?
Yeah, thank you, Avi, for having me in the open house. Hi, everyone. My name is Neeraj Agrawal, and I'm a current 1st year student at the LA School of Homeopathy. I always had a passion to learn homeopathy, but I never made a commitment to go pursue it. And I was looking for an easy way to learn. So when I came across the school website, they had weekend only, 1 weekend a month, 5 hours a week of commitment. And I said, yeah, here's my chance to learn because I have a full-time job and I have a family. So I went ahead and signed up. What I found out was there's so much to learn, and it's very rewarding, way more than I had expected. So here I am sharing my first year experience with you all. If you don't have prior knowledge about homeopathy like I didn't, be prepared to learn a new way of thinking. It's overwhelming at times, but suddenly things begin to click and it all falls in place. Don't be shy to reach out to Avghi. She is very helpful. She addresses all your concerns and difficulties. She has office hours every week. Make sure you call her. She will answer all your questions. And she runs a good school, healthy learning environment, and is always, always willing to share her knowledge. Few things about the school. The classes are recorded live. So there were 2 times that I missed half a day because of an emergency, and I was able to catch up, request a recording from Avghi, and you can view the portion that you missed. She has a diverse faculty of staff from different parts of the world, and they offer their unique backgrounds, their experiences, and it makes it a well-rounded, complete learning experience. She is strict. She has a strict curriculum to follow, but if you want to pursue other areas that you're interested in about homeopathy, she gives you enough freedom and will support whatever you want to pursue. There were a couple of things that interested me, and she gave me books from the library, and I was able to learn things out of the curriculum as well. There's 2 months. In our case, it was February and May when world-renowned leaders of homeopathy come to the school and they teach those 2 weekends. I don't know how Avghi arranges those people, but they wouldn't, they are so hard to get. And those 2 months were my absolute favorite. You actually get to see how the remedies and the medicines you're learning are being used by these leading homeopaths, something that you consider, oh, this is just a small medicine, but you get to see how effectively it's being used because they present cases, live cases. So you get to sit back and just listen to these homeopaths speak about their experiences. Another big advantage during those 2 months is there's no new material being taught. So that's a perfect opportunity to catch up on any assignments that you're behind on or any projects. So my favorite 2 months. It'll be yours too. During the year, a live patient is brought in to the class. Well, in this case, it was through Zoom. The teacher takes the case. The teacher doesn't know the student, has never met this patient. So we see in real time how the teacher takes a case, does the analysis, prescribes, and then the patient comes back for a follow-up. And that is just the absolute best exposure to how homeopathy works. And lastly, for me, the best learning group was our student group. We have 13 students. We have our own online study group, and we share our problems, share our resources, share, hey, what'd you do for this homework? I'm stuck. And we help each other out. So I'd like to wish you all a great journey with homeopathy, and I can absolutely assure you that you're considering one of the best schools that's around. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Niraj. Does anyone have any questions for Niraj? And then briefly, I want to share because I think it's so lovely. And there's a couple of other students in your class too, are following in footsteps of legacy of people before you. Niraj's grandfather in India lived in a village, right? A small village where he was a homeopath. And you just sent me something recently that they still celebrate him, even though he's no longer there anymore, because he helped so many people in that village through homeopathy. So Niraj wants to carry on that legacy, even though, you know, I'm going to out you and tell people what you do. You're an engineer, right, Niraj?
Right. Yes.
So that is something very different than homeopathy. So he has his world over here of engineering, but then he really wanted to do something that fulfills his heart and what his passion is, to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather, which I think is such a beautiful story.
I have a question. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Would you be able to practice in homeopathy with the certificate you're getting it from Los Angeles school? In future, just in case if you're going back and then on a vacation or something like that, would you be able to take cases in India with this certificate?
Oh, that would be more of a question for me. To tell you the truth, that is unknown. I'm not sure of what the rules and regulations are outside of California. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just
we can practice in California. That's what we know.
Yeah. Thank you, Niraj.
Thank you.
So now we have another special guest, which is Beate. You want to unmute and turn on your video? There she is.
Hello.
Hello. Beate is one of our second year students, finishing up soon, right? So just tell us about your experience and how it's been. And Beate, I could wave at her because she lives that close to the school.
Yeah, I mean, I am very inspired, even more by the day, to be honest. The more I learn, the more humble I am about this incredible medicine. And yeah, it's a journey, I have to say. And the school experience is wonderful. So I thank you, Niraj, for explaining the first year in such beautiful details. I just tell you quickly about the second year experience of mine, which I feel that the first year gave me like an understanding, a foundation and an understanding of what is homeopathy. And in second year, the beauty that the school offers is a clinical program as well. That's part of the curriculum. And that means that once a month, we are seeing patients, between 3 to 5 patients on a Sunday. And then it's mentored by a homeopath and who is supervising the session, and every one of us is taking patients on, either in first interviews or in follow-up sessions. And then we're going to write up for every patient of the clinic day a whole write up of what we saw and what we think the process of the remedy is. I find that so incredible and helpful, and really being thrown into the practice of homeopathy. In regards to the schooling, so it continues to be 1 weekend a month, and with great teachers. I mean, not only the faculty that is here in LA is wonderful, also, as Niraj already mentioned, we have in between teachings from very well-known and accomplished homeopaths. And that gives you a very diverse teaching style, and also the individual experiences, because every homeopath is so different and unique in the approach of how to apply homeopathy. Yeah, I really truly love the school experience, and also all my fellow students. It's so interesting because we all have previous careers, or still careers, that we are all practicing, and from all walks of life. And that in itself brings such a richness to the class and to homeopathy, because we all have our individual experience and bring that wisdom forth. Yeah, I mean, I cannot say enough praise for the school. It is demanding. I also have a full practice in holistic bodywork, and of course, so first year it's a little less, but second year I noticed there's definitely a little more work involved, especially through the clinics. But it's manageable. It's really, what I feel is, because now I'm so dedicated and inspired that I want to learn more, and I'm on the path that yeah, it's, in a way, it's easy and it's hard. It's all of it. I just wish days would have more hours, and but I love it.
Thank you. And I promise you, I didn't tell them to say, I didn't command them to say anything. This is from their own, just what they feel about the school. Does anyone have any questions for Beate?
I have a question. Hi, this is Kristen. When you say it's hard, could you elaborate on what you found to be difficult?
What I find difficult is the time, but that is my personal experience, because I have a full practice, and finding the time, and I have a family and a child, and so for me, it's the personal experience of it being hard is really finding time to sit down focused and to study, because what you study, of course, it's like, first, as Niraj said, it's really bending your brain into a new way of thinking. And it is a lot of reading and a lot of learning in that regard. So the hardness for me boils down to time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Such a good, honest answer. And, you know, just to say or speak to that is, we are a school that trains professional homeopaths, whether you want to go and do that or not. So yes, we are rigorous. We're going to give you the information that you need to go out there and be by yourselves one day, if that's what you wish to do. Excuse my language, we are not going to half-ass homeopathy. We are not going to do homeopathy by the fly, okay? We are going to really train you to be homeopaths. So yeah, thank you, Bia, so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and then we've got one more.
Hi, Avghi.
We have one more guest, and that is our a third-year student that I have invited here. So Kate, come on in, Kate, and turn on your video.
Hello.
Hey, good morning. Is it still morning? It is. Thanks for joining us, Kate. So some of you may also recognize Kate's voice, because Kate does work for me in the office too, which I'm so grateful for. But Kate is a third-year student. So just give us a little bit about how that's been for you this year.
Well, I think it goes by really fast. No matter what you think, 3 years goes by very fast. And this is a second or third career for me. And I'm so happy that I found it. And I'm so happy that I started when I did, because the idea of doing a 3-year program in my 40s was a little that was a hard decision to make. And as you can see, most of us are older. We do come to homeopathy from various backgrounds, but there are people who come right out of high school and do it. We have some of the younger people who this is their first career, and I'm so envious of that, but also so happy that I found it and the time that I did. My experience has been in the third year. It's such an amazing journey to go to school at this school. You start out starry-eyed and curious and wanting to absorb all of the information that you possibly can. You just want to devour it all, and you want to spend all of your time thinking about it and learning, because there is so much to learn. And it is hard at first, like Niraj said. You do have to change your perception of the way that you think, of the way that you work. And once it hits full bloom. It hits in such a way that there is just, you can see nothing else except for the way that homeopathy works in people and the way that it works in the world. And you're constantly forming ideas about what you're seeing and becoming a better homeopath in the rest of your life, not just in school, but throughout every communication that you have, and every situation that you're in. You're sort of learning homeopathy in life. And the third year for me has been, even though I still have a few weeks left, so great in the way that I was talking to another student who's in the third year, and we were commenting on how the process of the way that this program is set up over 3 years really makes you a better homeopath, but also just trains you to know what you want to do when you graduate, to be able to set up your practice, to be able to know what you want as a homeopath going out into the world. It gives us so much confidence to be able to work with patients one-on-one or clients one-on-one when you don't have the support behind you. The school is so great for giving you all the support, but it also really gives you good, solid foundation to be able to do it on your own, which I think is the goal. I mean, the goal is to go out into the world and do this, whether it's for your own families, for your friends, professionally, part-time, full-time, whatever it is. It really gives you a great foundation for that. And I'm so thankful for the way that that is subtly woven in to the whole curriculum from year one. But especially in year 3, when you're really focused on going out into the world and being homeopaths, it's really beautiful to me. Yes, and Avghi's gonna cry.
You know, in June, there's always tears when there's graduation. I usually have a box and there'll be tears. So I always like to warn everybody that. Thank you so much, Kate. Does anyone have any questions for Kate? And I loved how you said how quickly it does go by. I agree. It does go by. And if any of you are thinking, oh, maybe not this year, next year, I promise you, start this year, because it's going to go. But I have had students that have come to an open house and they've decided to join us 10 years later, and they have so kicked themselves.
It's true.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm in my 40s too.
Yay! Yay, 40s!
I know. And I'm like, yeah, exact thing. Like, wow, 3 years. I have 4 kids I'm home with full time, homeschooling by choice before COVID. And just, yeah, wondering if you have a family too, or how it's been balancing things and, you know, starting anew. And
I have a full-time job. I have many jobs. I'm usually working 2 or 3 jobs in addition to a full-time job at the same time. So I came to this at a really interesting place where, you know, I have a family, I have responsibilities, I have things that I have to do. And I think like Beata said, it's challenging, but it's worth it. And it's so temporary. And I think the thing that I'm seeing in hindsight is that as your family comes in, I see
this is
what happens.
That he's asking for something, and it's been quiet since.
This is what happens. But I think it's really one of those things where I know it's going to be challenging. I knew it was going to be hard, but it's so worth it to spend the time to do it when you're doing it. Because now 3 years later,
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the home stretch. I'm going to have no school and, you know, one job as a homeopath. And I can't wait for that moment when that happens. And if I had put it off, I don't know if there would have been any difference, you know? I don't know if there would have been any. To me, I feel like homeopathy was something that kind of hooked in me early on, and I was constantly researching and studying, but sort of surface. And so to dive into it was a big responsibility, but I think that you can do it for 3, you can do anything temporarily. And it's 3 years. It's 3 years, and it's the best 3 years to set yourself up for the future if this is what you want to do.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay. Thank you, Kate. Oh my goodness, amazing. Thank you to the 3 of you. I so appreciate you jumping on. It's really nice, I think, for people to hear from students and what their experiences are, and they all come from different, you know, backgrounds. So I'm so glad that you guys can join us. So we will continue on with our presentation, and I understand if the students need to jump off. Did anyone have any other questions for any of our students before they do leave? Oh, I think I spoke too soon. They're already gone. All right, so let's get back to our presentation real quick. We've got about 20 minutes left, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Let me just push this over there. Okay, so the 3 kingdoms: plant, mineral, and animal. So subdividing the kingdoms, the mineral is through the periodic table, the animal are through the classes, and the plants are by families. So the mineral kingdom, if anyone remembers this, the periodic table. Can anyone tell me what this H is over here? Does anyone know this? You can just unmute and shout it out.
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen. Hydrogen.
Yay, someone remembers from high school. And then what about over here? What's the second H, the HE?
Oh, helium.
Helium, yes, well done. So just to give you a taste of the families, so those 2 are in the first row. Both of these gases, because they are gases, this one's also a noble gas over here, because these are all the noble gases right here in this column 18. Hydrogen and helium are gases that tend to live out there, meaning more in the universe. They are more abundant in the universe than they are down here on our planet Earth. Hydrogenium patients, meaning the remedy itself, feel like they're floating around and they're in limbo and they really need to kind of connect. Hydrogen itself always wants to connect, the element, the gas. It doesn't really, it's not happy by itself. It always wants to connect with others. Whereas if we go over to here, helium is a noble gas and it's complete by itself. It does not want to connect, nor does it reach out to connect like hydrogen does. So helium is kind of like in its own bubble. They don't want to connect. It's not the only remedy I would think of, but this is a remedy that I may think of for patients who are on the spectrum, autistic children. There is no eye contact. They are complete in their own world. They're not going to reach out to you. They are in their own bubble and they're happy to be in their own bubble. So this is what I mean by when we teach through the families. So after 3 years, you'll have a pretty good understanding of the periodic table. We also teach the animal kingdom, and of course we can't cover all of the animals. There's way too many to cover, but we do go over certain themes in school. I took that picture a long time ago. It's a lioness. And then one of my favorite animals, again, I took that when I was in the bush, is giraffes. They're so beautiful and gorgeous to watch. They're just so graceful. I love watching giraffes. I think I could have sat there. I'm sure I did sit there for hours watching this one particular giraffe. So here are some of the classes through the family themes that we try and cover, most of those that you see. And then let's talk about the plant kingdom. And the plant kingdom is actually the biggest kingdom. So this is an African vista. And here are some of the plants. And here are the families. So we don't cover all of these, but I got to tell you, we cover more than 75% of these. In first year, you will learn about the Compositae family. And the reason why you're going to learn a lot about that family in first year is the Compositae family, the plant family itself, is all about injuries and wounds. So you get to learn about a lot of those remedies from that family. So let's just jump into your career as a homeopath. As our third year students are getting ready to jump out there, what does it really mean? People ask me, can I get hired by someone? And my answer is usually no. There's nobody that's going to hire you to be a homeopath unless you work in a health food store or in a pharmacy. Starting your own practice is usually the only way to go. And then some of our students might even share offices with each other, share offices with their classmates. A lot of our students have done that over the years. So normally you get to start your own practice, or maybe you already have a practice. Like Beate is a body worker, so she can incorporate homeopathy already into our practice. A few years ago, we had a student that's a medical doctor. She was a pulmonologist, and she wanted to incorporate homeopathy into her practice. So some people are going to incorporate if they're already in the field, and then some people will just start anew, just like I did. Sounds like Kate will, Niraj. So here are some of the statistics, even though these are a little old because no one's updated these, but this is what money is spent on alternative medicine. So in 2009, 2.2 trillion was spent on allopathic medicine. Remember, that's Western medicine. And 33.9 billion was spent on complementary and alternative medicine. That's what CAM means, complementary and alternative medicine. That number I know has changed today. So practitioners and self-care. So you can see here's the vitamins. It's a lot of money, 15 billion. These numbers would have changed as well because this is also from 2004. Oh, sorry, 2009. And then you can see down the bottom here, this little itty bitty purple line, that is 3.1 billion that is spent on practitioners and self-care. Now the school, just as a quick side note, has gone to the 2 homeopathic pharmaceuticals companies that are actually in the US, and they happen to be in LA. So we're kind of lucky. And we've always gone to them for a field trip. I ask them every time I go, hey, how are your sales doing? What is happening? I mean, this year they could not keep things in stock. There were actually things that they run out of. Because of the pandemic, a lot of people were using homeopathy and stocking up on homeopathy. And this year, Boiron especially, so the 2 companies that we go to, one is Boiron, which I would say Boiron is the biggest company worldwide. They are in France, is their home base, but they have offices worldwide. And then the second one is Highlands, or Standard. It's actually the same company, and that is the biggest company in the US. So those 2 pharmaceutical companies are actually based here in LA, and we get to go and visit them. So I remember years ago there was a medicine it was a cough medicine, Robitussin, over-the-counter cough medicine. Unfortunately, I think it was about 10 years ago now, that medicine was pulled from the shelves. And do you know why they pull a medicine from the shelves? Is because there are too many deaths, which is devastating and horrible to hear, because that was an over-the-counter cough medicine for children only. When it had caused too many deaths in children, they decided to pull that from the shelves. Ever since then, there is a cough medicine that Highlands put out called Children's Cough Medicine. I think that's the name of it. And I remember that year we went there and I asked them, hey, you know, how how are your sales doing? Well, he said to me, well, we went from about 60,000 units to like 3 million units of that cough medicine. And now, obviously, when I first started homeopathy, when I went to a health food store, there was no homeopathy in the stores. There was no homeopathy in Rite Aid, Walgreens, CVS pharmacy. Today, you can actually see a whole setup of homeopathic remedies in all of these stores, even in health food stores like Whole Foods, Mother's, Sprouts, Rainbow Acres. Actually, that's a local one to us. Lazy Acres. All these different health food stores carry now homeopathic remedies. So these numbers have definitely changed over the years, and they have gone up. So you can see here 2.9 billion was spent on homeopathic medicine. And of course, that number has gone up. Patients, what time is it? Let's see how we're doing. Oh, we got 15 minutes. I have this list here because I wanted to share some stories with you about my own personal patients. So let's start with polycystic ovarian syndrome. Some of you actually already spoke about this. So I remember this young Indian lady came to see me, and she'd had an ultrasound, and it was very, very large. It was literally the size of a grapefruit, and she didn't want to have surgery. I said, okay, you know, let's do homeopathy. She was used to homeopathy because she had grown up with it in her hometown. And then every 6 weeks she'd go back and have another ultrasound, and she did so well. And every time she came back to me, she said it's just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And then another lady came to me. She had just gotten this new puppy, and she was highly allergic to this dog. And it's the only reason why she came to me. She's like, I am so allergic. I don't know what to do. It's either I have to get over my allergies or this puppy's got to go. And she had young children, and they would have been devastated. I was like, okay, the pressure's on now. So that time when she came back 6 weeks later is usually what a common follow-up is for patients. And she told me, oh, no, I'm good. No more allergies. We still got the puppy, so life is good. And then she proceeded to tell me, which it was my fault for not asking in the beginning because she was so focused on her allergies, is that she told me that every night since she was a little girl, she would have nightmares every night, violent, horrible nightmares. In her whole life, she had had these that didn't stop since she was a child. And she said, you know, it's really interesting. I don't have these nightmares anymore that I was having before. So even though I didn't know about the nightmares, finding that right constitutional homeopathic remedy for someone, things will clear up and go away. Panic attacks. I treat a lot of people with a lot of mental health issues. And I remember this young lady, she must have been about 25, when she came to see me, and her panic attacks were getting worse and worse, and her life was closing in and in to the fact where she wouldn't want to go out to restaurants. She wouldn't want to go out to even visit her family members that she knows and loves. She wouldn't want anyone to come over and visit her. All she could manage to do was have her boyfriend drive her to work, and she couldn't drive anymore. This is how much panic and fear that she was in. Before, her life was full and busy. She'd go and work out at the gym, and she'd go to work, and she'd have friends over or go to her family's to visit for dinner or go and see friends at a restaurant. So her life had completely closed in on her. And for her, I did talk about, you know, what went on in her childhood. And I usually ask this with everybody. And I said, what do you think was there something that happened in your childhood where you felt your life was going along very nicely in one direction, and all of a sudden it took a quick left-hand turn? And she said, yes. And for her, she was in her house when she was about 10 or 11, and there was a commotion that happened outside. It was an accident or something. And both of her parents, I think she was younger, maybe she was 7 or 8, both of her parents ran out of the house. Now, she's a single child, and she was completely freaked out that her parents ran out of the house. They didn't really tell her, we'll be back in 10 minutes, which I'm sure that they did come back in 15, 20 minutes. But for her reaction, she went into a state of fear and she never got off that track. It's kind of like if you remember old records, and when a record gets a scratch in it, it keeps on getting stuck over that same groove. It cannot get out of it. So ever since that quick left-hand turn happened to this patient when she was younger, she's been on a track of fear her whole life. And as she was getting older and older, it was getting worse and worse, and her life was literally closing in on her. I treated her, and then she started to say to me, you know, I think I'm okay to drive to work now. And then it was, I'm okay to go to the gym again. We had our, my parents came over to visit for dinner. And then she would start venturing out slowly but surely. So her life completely changed and opened up again. I don't have time to go into all of these, but I, in my practice, a couple of my favorite things to treat is children on the spectrum. I see a lot of children. I have a large pediatric practice, even though I do have a family practice. And I also do see a lot of people who do have cancer. But I will tell you quickly about the last one, the anger issues and the ball gown, because it's so good. It's such a good story. So this patient came to me, I think she was Austrian, so I know she had an accent. And she said, you know, I need to get a handle on my anger. It is so bad that she told me a story that she lived in Santa Monica, which is not far from here. And she was at some event, and it was a very nice event. It was a ball, and she was in a full ball gown. And her anger had gotten so out of control that she was hauled out of from that ball in her ball gown in handcuffs. The police were called. She was handcuffed because she cannot get a hold of her anger. So yes, homeopathy helped her too. But it was just, that's always stuck with me. I just imagine someone that's in a ball gown at a ball that is behaving so badly because her anger is so out of control that the police had to be called and you're hauled out of there in a ball gown. What a vision, right? So I'm sorry I don't have time to go into all of these, but you'll be hearing more from me if you do join the school. So let's talk a little bit about the facts, the finances, and the nitty-gritty of the school. So yes, let's talk about the worldwide situation. I kind of mentioned that earlier. The school also created a COVID clinic. We kind of did that, I think, back in April of last year, where a lot of my grads were coming to me. How can we help people? How can we reach out to the population? So on our website, we actually have a COVID clinic that's an acute care clinic only. There's a donation that you can make a donation for a 15-minute acute care appointment. So we did that instantly right away with a lot of our grads that wanted to be involved with that, which was really wonderful. Can you still practice? My practice has not slowed down. I would say my practice has gotten busier. Because I also rolled to online, and I see my patients through an online HIPAA compliant platform, a video platform. Can you still help patients? 100%, absolutely. How successful has homeopathy treatment been during a pandemic? So what I know and have learned being on these conferences with worldwide homeopaths treating, coronavirus, they have done very, very well. Little bit of history, the last pandemic that was in 1918, the Spanish flu virus. The statistics from back then was allopaths, who are Western doctors, had an 80% mortality rate, which means that they lost 80% of their patients. Homeopaths at the time had a 3% mortality rate. They lost 3% of their patients. That's a big difference. So that's just historical. Another favorite quote that I have, sometimes it is the people no one imagines anything of who do the things that no one can imagine, by Alan Turing. And if you don't know who Alan Turing was. He was the one that broke the Nazi code in World War I, I think. And he was the first person to create a computer. Sometimes it is the people no one imagines anything of who do the things that no one can imagine. I think that's just such a beautiful quote.